The John, Anik, and Kenny Florian podcast. John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
I fucking love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole.
There are a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
All right, coast to coast, 7 a.m. Pacific time on the screws. It is Sunday, June 26th. Welcome in episode 354 of the Anik and Florian podcast, presented in part by UFC Fight Pass. Ken Flo's on vacation. PFL 5's in the can. Where the fuck are you right now?
I'm in South Carolina, man. I'm kind of hanging by the beach.
That's exciting.
I'll be here for the next few weeks. So, yeah.
Spending some time with the in-laws, I take it.
Yes.
Your
here with the
Wi-Fi is exceptional, by the way. Wherever you are right now. So maybe you can move here.
Seriously.
All right, we got a lot to get to today. Of course, we are just hours removed from UFC Fight Night, Sarukyan versus Gamrot, so we'll get into as many of those fights as possible. The great Sean Sheehan from Severe MMA is scheduled to join us here in about 10 minutes. Ray Longo, of course, Brian Petrie will have no fewer than 9 selections head-to-head with Ken Flo for UFC 276, and a lot of other things to get to intermittently as well. But we will begin with PFL 5 very quickly, if I could, because what Stevie Ray did to Anthony Showtime Pettis a couple of nights ago, Ken Flo, like, that'll make me never train again. And I was talking to Dominic Cruz about it last night, and we sort of agreed that in real time, there's no one better to explain that than you. But that being said, you know, Dom was sort of wondering aloud how he would have commentated that in real time, because a jiu-jitsu practitioner like yourself is still studying, right? And still looking for maybe new things and nuances and chokes and things like that. A lot of us hadn't seen this before. And I guess the way it was explained to me was that it was almost like the opposite of what you're used to seeing. What can you tell us about this body lock that gave Anthony Showtime Pettis, at least in my opinion, no choice but to tap?
Yeah, no, it's a brutal move. What's interesting about it, first of all, if you have your regular body triangle, like we see Damian Maia control people so well with that body triangle, when the foot is on the outside, it does put a lot of pressure on the spine, but there's no twisting action. Why? Because the opponent can't really move and turn towards you. This was a move that really happened because Anthony Pettis did this to himself. Now, Stevie Ray, instead of having that leg to the outside of the hip, he had his foot and leg in between Anthony Pettis's legs. So when Anthony was able to turn, because he did turn all the way, his right leg was trapped and kind of hitting. It was being blocked by Stevie Ray's inner leg and foot.
Right.
Then Stevie Ray kind of wrapped up the top part of the upper body of Anthony Pettis and basically just started cranking. And Anthony Pettis had no ability to either go right or go left. And because Stevie Ray had control of the upper body and control of the hips with that body triangle, he was essentially twisting and torquing the body of Anthony Pettis and putting a lot of pressure on the rib. It looked like Anthony Pettis had some ice on his ribs. He had injured his rib against Dustin Poirier back in the day, and an amazing UFC fight back in the day. So I guess they were concerned that maybe he popped his rib or anything like that, but it seemed like he was okay. But there's a tremendous amount of pressure specifically that goes on that spine that twists it, similar to a twister.
Right.
And it also could put a lot of pressure on the ribs because of the body lock.
All right, well, Stevie Ray has sort of had a challenging career at times. There were some shining moments in the UFC, but then he was sort of unceremoniously let go. So you got to feel good for Stevie Ray. And I guess for Anthony Showtime Pettis, correct me if I'm wrong, but he had a first-round finish earlier this season, so he still preserves the number 1 seed in the playoffs. Is that the way it works?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
He was the only guy who got a first-round finish, so he had the maximum amount of points. So
okay.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to get to, there was a big heavyweight upset. The names are escaping me right now, but I did find it interesting that the victorious fighter is not in the playoffs. He needed a first-round knockout to advance, and as a plus 650 underdog, nearly got it.
Yeah, exactly. Renan Fajeda, had a first-round finish. He was leading the pack, giant 6'8" Brazilian guy. Lost to another Brazilian, Klidson Abreu, who fought tremendously well, had a win by decision that earned him 3 points. won again by decision, earning him 3 points. But because he didn't have a finish, the PFL tries to basically give precedence to people who get finishes. Though the first criteria, if it is tied up 6-6,
right,
what the PFL does, they go to head. So whether you beat that person or not, if you were tied with that person, you beat him in the regular season, you will advance. The second criteria is the number of regular season fights that you had. Did you only have one fight, or did you have 2 fights? They had 2 fights. The next set of criteria is the number of finishes, and that's what put Renan Ferreira above, which gives people, the impetus to try to go out there and finish fights. Yeah.
All right, let us quickly get to UFC Fight Night, and what a main event it was between Arman Tsarukyan and Mateusz Gamrot. And anyone who listens to this podcast knows that I don't train in jiu-jitsu, but that's like my favorite type of fight, right? Seeing grappling transitions like that, and obviously there was a lot to like on the feet as well. But what were your thoughts on what was obviously a compelling, high-stakes lightweight main event that ultimately goes to Mateusz Gamrot 48-47 across the board?
I knew that Tsarukyan was a very good fighter. I wasn't sure that he was the most exciting fighter, and I've just been sleeping on him, to be honest. I haven't watched as much as I would like, but Tsarukyan is an absolute beast. Gamrot, an absolute beast. That fight was tremendous. This is why, the 155-pound division has been so good for so long. And maybe I'm biased because I compete in that division, but man, there is so much talent in that division. It's insane. And I couldn't agree with you more. The grappling transitions, the striking transitions, the speed of Arman Tsarukyan, and the determination and chin of Gamrot was just unbelievable. What a fight. Brilliant grappling exchanges as far as the wrestling goes. Some nice exchanges with jiu-jitsu. I would like to see Gamrot secure that back a little bit better. But other than that, I was highly entertained. Awesome main event. It went late, I think it was worth it that the fight was that good.
No, I was out here in Vegas even fighting it, and you were obviously a lot later than I was. So when this main event was announced, my initial thought was they both deserve a headlining spot, but I'm a little bit surprised that it's happening against each other just because of their lack of name recognition, at least at this stage of their career. Certainly the avid fans know acutely who these guys are, but it all worked out, and it was a great showcase for both athletes, and Khabib Nurmagomedov certainly wasn't the only one to publicly acknowledge Sean Shelby and the matchmakers for putting these guys together. As far as the scorecards are concerned, it was veteran judges, D'Amato, Lee, McCarthy all had it 48-47, with Mateusz Gamrot winning rounds 3, 4, and 5. I did give Arman Tsarukyan rounds 1 and 2, and when we get to Sean Sheehan, I'm sure he has some thoughts on that main event as well. But competitive fight, and Gamrot calling for a fight with Justin Gaethje. I'm not sure if he'll get it, but he's getting a huge fight next at 55. There's no doubt.
Listen, I think both guys deserve a big shot and a big opportunity coming off of this. It was a fight that really was very close. I think it probably came down to round 3. I had it scored the same way. Rounds 1 and 2 for Tsarukyan, 3, 4, and 5 for Gamrot. The way that he was coming back and making adjustments and starting to land with that right hand, I think was significant. Again, just a tremendous fight. And I expect a big opportunity for both those guys. Wouldn't be surprised if both those guys get a shot at the belt and perhaps even become champions in the future.
All right, Sean Sheehan in a few minutes here, but I want to ask you about Shavkat Rakhmonov. Danny Rube has been telling me for years that this dude's like the best in the world, and he just might be, man. Neil Magny's a hard guy to put away. Certainly, I don't have to tell this audience about his place in the UFC record books. What'd you make of the co-main event and yet another finish for the oncoming Shavkat Rakhmonov?
Is Shavkat one of Danny Rubenstein's guys?
I think he is, or at least was at some point in time.
Ruby. Go for it, man. That's awesome. He's killing it. Listen, he's tremendous. I've been high on this kid since the first time I saw him fight in the UFC. He's finally starting to get that recognition. I think this was a good opportunity for him based on the fact that he was right before the main event and based on the fact that he fought a true veteran, a guy who was very difficult to take out in Neil Magny. So it's about time he earned some respect. He's the guy that everybody should be talking about, but people don't really know so much about him. But I think those days are long gone now if you're paying attention and saw that card from last night. I also think he's going to be a guy that a lot of welterweights are going to try to avoid. That dude's unbelievable. 16 fights, 16 finishes.
Oh, yeah.
You do not see that every day. That is unbelievable.
And he's not forcing the finish, lets it
Right.
materialize. That's a huge
And
win
he's
for
technical.
him.
He's not this wild brawler. He's a technician, and just looking sharp everywhere.
And sometimes when a fighter doesn't speak English, you don't, at least Americans and English-speaking fight fans, don't necessarily get the total picture of who the guy is, but he seems to have an edge to him as well, which I like. A lot of big performances last night. Big win for Chris Curtis, the action man, stuffing 20 takedowns. Carlos Ulberg with a huge knockout. Umar Nurmagomedov doing nothing to, take the shine off of his name. And Thiago Moises with a big submission as well. So a lot of big things happening at UFC Fight Night. And we are now going to get into it a little bit more as we welcome on the host of the Severe MMA podcast on social media. You can find him at Severe MMA and also at Sean Sheehan BA. Sean Sheehan is with us. I'm not sure if this man has even slept, but it's great to see your face, my man. How are you?
Not too bad. I got a couple of hours, Sunday is kind of a zombie day for me. I'm gonna, the song Zombie, I'm from Limerick and the Cranberries are from Limerick. So it's an appropriate song to have for me on a Sunday. I'm always going around like a zombie, but I'm used to it now, nearly a decade at it. So I'll sleep on Monday. I'll be fine.
There you go. Well, our listeners and our viewers certainly enjoyed your last appearance, and I just think you're a tremendous resource and asset to the space, so I appreciate you carving out some time for us. Now, last week, for Josh Emmett and Calvin Kattar, I believe you actually found that work-life balance and you weren't watching the fights live. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is correct. My niece had her 18th birthday, so we were all out at that, so I wasn't able to watch it, but I caught it when I came back, and it was one of those rare fights, honestly, where my co-host on the Severe MMA podcast calls me the president of the judges union, and I'm usually on their side. But I thought that fourth round was wrong. Honestly, I thought Calvin Kattar should have won that fourth round and won the fight. I think there'd be no problem. I think it was the second round. I've watched so many fights since then; it's hard to remember. But there'd be no problem getting three rounds in that if it was the second round. But that fourth round, I just think Emmett landed a lot more and won that one. So that was one of those rare rounds where in the UFC we actually see it scored, in my opinion, and the wrong way. Now, my opinion isn't sacrosanct or anything like that. We have seen a few fights, especially in the PFL, Kenny. I know you've been there watching them, especially the Rory McDonald one. And a lot of that is because, it's in Georgia or in other places, during the pandemic as well, where the top judges aren't there. Right. And I always say it, when you have the top judges, you get top results. And unfortunately, I don't think this one was one of those. To be honest, I think the wrong guy won. But having said that, still a very, very close fight. And there's definitely a scorecard there that you can give it to Emmett. But the fourth round on that one judge's card, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, man. Did you check out the main event last night? And what did you think of the scorecards in that one?
I did, yeah. I had it 49-46 for Saryukin. I thought he won all of the first four rounds, but it was a very close fight. I'm glad the judges scored the first two rounds for Saryukin the way they did, because we talk a lot about body work not being scored in mixed martial arts, and I think he did his best body work in those first two rounds, and it was scored that way, so that's great to see. The third round was the closest round. I think that could have gone either way. Gamrot got the takedown in that round, and he did some good work. But Saryukin did some good work on the feet too. I thought he did enough. It's impact is how you score it, and for me, he did the more impact. But if you score that for Gamrot, I'm not arguing with you at all. The fifth round, then, I think Gamrot won that. I don't think Saryukin landed much impact there at all, and I think Gamrot kind of won the general round itself. But another relatively close round. It was the fourth round I think it came down to. Now, apart from one big shot, I think this was a very close round. But it was weird. I don't know if you were listening to the commentary or not. There was like a big, was it an elbow or a spinning attack, and Saryukin knocked down Gamrot.
The back fist, yeah.
The commentary just didn't seem to see it at all. And I wonder, was it one of those things where you're in the arena and you just don't see it? Like, that happens sometimes. We've all been at fights where someone gets knocked down and like, oh, how did they get on the ground? And I wonder, was that one of those things? Because I reckon if the judges had seen that the way I saw it at home, and the way a lot of people I think saw it at home, as a big knockdown, as a hurtful shot, I think they would have probably scored that round for Saryukin, and I think he probably would have won the fight. But it was razor thin. I think, and they showed the replay afterwards, and I think that shot did land, and it was a very hurtful shot. And, you must score an impact. You must score an immediate impact. And I think that was enough to win that round, which was, I had close, but I think Saryukin I had just ahead. But even if you had Gamrot just ahead and that big shot lands, then Saryukin wins that round.
If the judges don't see it, it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Can I just ask you, Sean, Who do you feel worse for, like Calvin Kattar or Arman Tsarukyan, just because you scored both of those fights 4-1 for those guys, I believe? Who do you feel worse for, even though there doesn't seem to be any inherent robbery here in either fight?
I feel worse for Kattar because I feel that fourth round last week was wrong. Like, I can see an argument for even the fourth round, which in the third and fourth round, I feel strongly that Tsarukyan won them via the criteria. I can definitely see an argument in the third. And in that fourth, it just felt like one of those shots that everyone missed. So if you missed it as how can you score it? Right. I look at sympathy for everyone. The problem is in MMA, right? We usually we get results like this and people roar robbery or, not necessarily this one, and they say, they're taking the money out of the person. They only get paid half and it's ruining their lives and everything. What if it's the other way around? What if Tsarukyan won the fight and Gamrot lost? Then it'd be the same thing. You're taking money out of this guy.
Right.
That's the problem. It's, the UFC maybe need to pay everyone the same amount of money. It doesn't matter who wins and loses. We all get the same amount of money and then we won't have that problem. I feel like we're trying to maybe solve one problem because of another one, but it's, I definitely feel worse for Kattar just because I think that was a badly scored fourth round there last night. A lot of very close rounds, but what a fight and unbelievable. Last time we spoke about maybe we talk too much about judging. We don't enjoy the fights. That was one of those ones. That first round, the way Gamrot was able to defend those takedowns and just grapple his way out of everything was absolutely astonishing, brilliant. I love that fight so much.
Guys, obviously the nature of the cage, they have things that kind of impede your ability to see the fight sometimes, just with the padding and the poles and all that stuff. Do judges have access to monitors in every state?
Not every state, I don't think. I think the UFC, John, you'd probably obviously be able to tell better than me, but I think the UFC have them everywhere. I think it's down to the promotion mostly. John, you probably be able to answer that better than me.
They're much bigger than they used to be, I can tell you that. And yes, the UFC does supply them, but that doesn't mean that they're on that monitor the whole time. And there are a lot of judges that have complained about angles and turnbuckles and things in front of them when they can't see.
I mean, if you're behind one of those poles or not in the proper angle or whatever, or maybe the fighters have your back to them or whatever, that back fist, you can miss it in a second and think that, Gamrot was going for a low-level single again and think that, he tripped or whatever. Yeah. So, that's unfortunate.
Sean Sheehan with us here. Go ahead, Sean.
The reason why they are cage side, though, a lot of people want them, backstage or whatever. I think last night's actually a great example of why they are cage side, because that fight really, in totality, came down to impact. And we've all sat cage side and watched fights, the two of you obviously way more than me, but you can feel that impact. You can sense it way more when you're cage side. And last night just felt like one of those fights. Everyone at home, or a lot of people at home, scored it for Tsarukyan based on impact. But maybe the impact and judgment, you look the judges' cards, all 15 rounds agreed upon. So they must have been seeing the same thing. It felt like the impact in the arena was very different from watching at home. And that's why they're there. And it is the best place to do it. That's reality right up close to them.
Yeah, I have certainly come off of any perch I was on about judges in the back. We are certainly aligned on that now. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, no, I'll say this. I think impact is a much better word. Sometimes we get caught up, like the commentary booth was talking about the sound of a lot of these kicks. Well, the reality is the sound of the kick doesn't mean it's impactful. Sometimes we get a little excited when we hear a loud slap. Well, I could slap you with my foot on the side of your leg, and that means nothing. It's just a hurtful slap. If I thud you with my shin across the quad, that's a whole different deal. So I think it's important that people make that distinction, that just because it's loud doesn't mean that it's an impactful blow. Looking at the reaction of a fighter, seeing them stumble backwards or take a misstep or look like they step in a pothole or, backing them up after a good shot, that's something that I consider impactful. When you see the look of the face or the look of the body, that there's a direct impact of that strike.
There's one phrase in the criteria that I love, and it's to the fighting spirit. They say, if it diminishes your fighting spirit, and that's exactly what you're talking about there. If you punch someone and they fall back and they're up against the cage, well, that hurts them. If you punch someone and they stand there, like the Korean Zombie or someone, he doesn't move. It's like, well, did that impact him? And it could be the exact same punch landing the Korean Zombie and another fighter. And it could have a total different impact. And that's what it's scored on as well. It's not just the punch, it's who's taking the punch as well.
Sean Sheehan with us here on the Anik and Florian podcast. Now, I did not book you purposefully on the heels of our judging and refereeing seminar that took place here Friday in Las Vegas for many of our UFC commentators. But your thesis statement to me via direct message was exactly my thought 5 minutes in. We need 10, 12, 16 hours with these guys because every time some issue was brought up, we kind of needed an hour to sort of hash it out, and then we had no choice but to move along. So one thing that keeps coming up that I wanted to ask you about, it seems to me that I keep hearing verbally from you, from judges, that if you have to ask yourself whether or not it's a 10-8 round, then it's a 10-9. And to me, my thesis statement would be, if you have to ask yourself if it's a 10-8, meaning you're thinking borderline it might be, then it can't be a 10-9 because that's too close. And I guess my thesis statement walking out of there, Sean, is that I'm all in trying to join you in your efforts to educate the masses. But I do believe that we're all educating the masses on a scoring criteria that truthfully does not fit our sport. And that's my frustration. I'm happy to help educate, but we need more of an overhaul than we need education, in my opinion.
I would totally disagree with that, honestly. I think it fits it very well. What you're talking about there specifically is the 10-8 part, and that has been changed, and it's a major problem. I think it needs to go back. It has not worked well whatsoever, and Dana came out after the Israel Adesanya fight and the Felicia Spencer Manny Nunes fight, I think,
right,
as well it was, and he was giving out about there was too many 10-8s. And then the Nevada Commission changed, and now everywhere is kind of changing. All the judges are scoring them differently. Gone completely backwards. What we do now, okay, you say, you think afterwards, is it a 10-8? Is it a 10-9? It's a 10-9. Beforehand, we'd go to the 3Ds. You talk about the criteria maybe not being fit for purpose, but the criteria was there to tell us exactly what a 10-8 was. And, obviously we know the 3Ds, we discussed it the last time as well. And every time there was a discussion on the commentary or us at home sitting down watching it, you think of that. Did he have the damage? Did he have the duration? Did he have the dominance? Well, if he had all three of them, we know it's a 10-8. That's not the case now anymore. You can have all three of them, and if you don't have overwhelming damage, it's no longer a 10-8. That's bad. That is bad. We need certainty on it. That part of the criteria is absolutely it's just gone so backwards. I absolutely hate it. If we went back to that, I think it'd change a lot of those things, because the biggest issue with the criteria right now is the difference between a 10-9 and a 10-8, as you talked about there. That solves that issue for a large part. It's never going to solve the issue completely. There'll always be close rounds. There'll always be borderline 10-9, 10-8. You have if you have the 2Ds, you can go either 10-9, 10-8. We'll always have that. There's no way to solve judging. People need to stop that rubbish. We'll never, ever solve judging. We'll never have every judge agree. If you punch me once, I punch you once. One person's going to say that was more impactful. The other person's going to say the other punch was more impactful. We need to forget that. There's no magic pill we can take to fix judging. We just need to get it as good as we possibly can. And we're at a level now where judging is very consistent, but the consistency over to 10-8s has gone in the wrong direction, because we're consistently wrong now, I think. And wrong in terms of the overall look at the judging, not necessarily the understanding of the criteria. For me, you talk about the criteria of all the time, and we need to take out 2 hours and discuss this, because this is a topic we go on all the time. But my thoughts about it, and Joe Rogan did that thing in his podcast a couple of weeks ago where he basically solved the judging criteria by saying what the exact criteria was. I'm sure we all saw that. But the thing about that is, you can't blame someone for thinking that, because we used to have an all criteria and it wasn't communicated well that it changed. And what they did when they changed that in 2016, came in on January 1st, 2017, was they got the 10-9 must system, which everyone hates and says it's the boxing system and all of that. But they retrofitted it for mixed martial arts, and they brought in the effective grappling, the effective striking, and all of that. And I think, having watched fights through the eyes of the criteria for the last 3 years or so, with a top class judge that I can talk to all the time, and I text every day or every week about these fights and try to gain an understanding of it, I really feel that retrofitting of the 10-9 must system, or 10-point must system, has really worked well for mixed martial arts. Now, the changing of the 10-8s has put it back. It really has put it back. But I still think normal 10-9 rounds, we can score them better than we've ever scored them before, and score them in a more assured way. It doesn't always work, as I say. Some rounds are very close. Some rounds, like the third round in the Saryukin versus Gamrot fight last night, it can go either way. But because because it's close. You know, it's up to the fighter to separate himself from the other fighter, and it's up to the other fighter to separate himself from the other fighter. And sometimes, you know, you meet a rock in a hard place, and that's not going to happen. You can't blame the judge for that. The judge has to decide on that. But I think what we have in the criteria right now spells it out very well in very simple terms as well. I know we spoke the last time. I think the criteria could be longer. There's bits I would take out, but I think it could be more well explained. But I think what we have right now, you know, we can give out about it. We can pick holes in it, but I think we have to accept it at some stage as well. We have to, and to look at fights through the criteria over a long time will give us a good idea of how well the criteria works. Because you can look at one fight and say, right, someone made a mistake here, like I think last week, but everyone makes mistakes. You know, people make mistakes in all sports all the time. That doesn't mean the system is bad. We need to look at it over a long period of time, which I have done and I've tried to do, and with an open mind, when I'm biased, I've no, you know, affiliation to any team or anything like that. Right. And look at it in that way. And for me, having done that, I really think that we're very consistent, but more importantly, we're doing it the right way. We're doing it over how MMA should be scored. MMA shouldn't be scored on control. MMA shouldn't be scored on, I'm winning the goings of the fight. You know, I'm dominating the position of the fight. That's all well and good, but MMA is an offensive sport. It should always be an offensive sport. And the amount of damage done, the amount of impact landed should be the main reason why fights are won. And for me, over the last few years, it has been.
No one can persuade me in this space quite like you, and perhaps overhaul was the wrong verb, but I also glean from what you're saying that the 10-9 range has never been wider. And you say this 10-8 problem is a huge problem. I actually believe, on the heels of our seminar, that you are going to see some of these judges be more aggressive with the 10-8s now, despite the directives, because if they don't, the system is flawed. But I agree with you that if 10-8s are more liberal, but then I keep hearing from everybody, oh, if you have to question whether or not it's a 10-8, it's a 10-9, and thereby the 10-9 range gets even wider. And to me, that's insane.
I think it's come back a little bit, to be honest. I think, you know, everyone's kind of cooled down a small bit, and it has come back a little bit. And I spoke to a few judges over in America who kind of been saying to me, look, I'm looking at the 10-8, I'm looking at the 3Ds again when scoring the 10-8s, and I'm not going overwhelming impact. And if that comes back, it might take a while, and hopefully it comes back in totality. That would make a really big difference. It really, really would. And yeah, that gap is definitely wide. It's definitely wide at the moment, but that's nothing got to do with the criteria in general. That's got to do with the 10-8 and the adjustment to the 10-8, which has been overwhelmingly bad, in my opinion.
Right. No, I think that's fair. And we did have a judge acknowledge, Ken Flo, that for that second round in the rematch between Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling, if he could go back, he would have scored at a 10-8, you know? So there was a lot of good that came out of this. You know, I felt like for us, Sean and Kenny, it was more fruitful as far as some of the refereeing stuff than the judging stuff, because again, I think we need days and days and days to rehash this. You know, it was interesting, like we got to score some rounds, and they gave us one round that they felt was pretty easy to score, and then one round that they tried to trick us. And a couple of the analysts, if you want to say got tricked, you know, were on the wrong side of that. So it was very informative and educational, you know, but generally speaking, you know, I feel like analysts need to focus more on the mixed martial arts and less on the judging, but sometimes they are inexorably linked. I would imagine for you, Sean, it's hard sometimes on your podcast to talk about how great a fight Tsarukyan and Gamrot was, and you keep inevitably coming back to this stuff.
Yeah, I literally just recorded before I came on here, and I did that. I stopped in the middle of the podcast because we need to stop talking about judging, and we need to talk about how great of a fight this was. And it was great. I don't know if you saw it on Cage Warriors this weekend. Reece McKee had an unbelievable win, and I was so glad it didn't go to a decision, because there was lots of very close rounds, and you'd be talking about that, but instead we're talking about a great fight and we're talking about a great win. And yeah, it definitely is. It's a shame at times, but look, it's something that's going to be very, very hard to overcome. And look, it's a thing we all have to look. I took a long time to learn it as well, and I'm very lucky that I had a judge kind of reach out to me, and I was able to speak to him and kind of become friends with him, and he's there to help me all the time. If I would love, you know, I'm sure he would do the same for you, John, and I'm sure if Daniel Cormier or Dominic Cruz or Kenny or yourself or whoever it might be, if they got a judge and they could speak to him and they did that and they did it week in, week out, it would help so much, because there's a big problem as well, right? And it's very hard for me to say Daniel Cormier is wrong. What do I know compared to Daniel Cormier or Kenny or Dominic Cruz? But then you hear him say something on the broadcast and it is wrong, right? You know? As I said, if Tom Brady said a touchdown is worth 12 points, just because he's the greatest of all time doesn't mean it's right. You know, well, maybe him it is, but you know and that is a big problem. And it's not, you know, it's probably from, as you say, separating the martial arts from the judging, because sometimes they are different. There are certain things I'm sure that you will game plan to do that's not going to score for you, but might win you the fight in the long time, like forward pressure. Like say Conor McGregor, right? If you're fighting him, you want to put forward pressure on him. Well, McGregor might, you know, counter you for the first 2 rounds, win those 2 rounds, but in the 4th round, he gets tired and you choke him out. You haven't won on the judges' cards, but you win the fight because that's good game planning. That's good martial arts. Yeah. There is that disconnect there, but there should be that disconnect there, because the reality is Conor McGregor has, countered you for 2 rounds and hit you harder, so you should win that round. Right. So I feel like if we acknowledge that disconnect a little bit more, I know wrestling is a big part of it as well, because obviously, you know, the top control. We saw, what fight was it? The Talia Santos Valentina Shevchenko fight. It said in the 2nd round, it was 3 minutes, 30 seconds of top control. Now, that was in the 1st and 2nd round, and it looked weird on the broadcast. I was thinking, wait, there hasn't been that much, but look in that 2nd round, Santos had a long time of top control, but she didn't do anything with it. Like, and if you're and that's a big problem, because if you're a wrestler, you're looking at that and go, oh, she's dominating the fight. But she's not, because she's not landing those impactful shots. And that is a major disconnect as well, I think we have between fighters who are rightly told to win those positions, and they should be. That disconnect between the judges and what they score in that position. But that disconnect can be overcome by the fighter landing a few more shots, going for a few more submissions. That's easy for me to say, but that's the reality of it. If you're playing a soccer match, you can have 90% of the ball, but if you don't put it in the back of the net, it doesn't score.
Right.
And I think that's what made mixed martial arts so intriguing, right? Is because I think as far as a hand-to-hand situation, it's supposed to mimic a fight to the death, the safest way, best way possible, right? So it's like, if I said, I hate to say this as a grappler, but it is true when you think about it. If I, take you down and I'm just controlling you and you're fresh as a daisy and you're not impacted by what I was doing to you, then I'm not hurting you. I'm not winning the fight to the death. Like I need to be doing things that are damaging you, that's making you not move the same, that's making you not react the same. If I'm hurting your arm by breaking it, okay, that's a different story. I'm forcing you to want to give up, or I'm hitting you in the face to the point where you don't look the same. You're not moving the same. We are doing our best to try to mimic a fight to the death in the safest and best way possible.
There's some very interesting fights. A very interesting fight I went back and I rewatched recently. Chael Sonnen versus Anderson Silva, the first one. Whereas, you think back on that fight, what do you think? Chael just dominated the first 4 rounds, got submitted. I went back and watched that fight and I had Anderson winning, Anderson winning a couple of those rounds because he impacted Chael more. And it's a weird one, because I think of that used to be a fight I would show people to get them to watch MMA, when it was coming up in Ireland. But I went back and watched it. I was like, it's a very different fight back then. And I saw, DC on his show, he was talking about fighting against Gustafsson, and he was, Laura Sanko was on with him, and he said, well, I controlled that fight against Gustafsson, but he probably landed more impact than me. Why did I win that fight? And I went back and I looked at the date of that fight, and it was before 2017. If that fight had happened a year down the line, then Alexander Gustafsson might have been the champion.
Sure.
So we need to realize that disconnect as well. Like, Kenny, all your fights would have been with the old scoring criteria.
I literally was thinking about that as far as like the Gray Maynard fight and some of those fights that went decision. I was like, wait a sec.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Thankfully, you kept the scorecards.
I only would have lost once to BJ.
Right. So, Sean, when we book you in July, I think I'm just going to book you for the whole show, because I always feel like we're shortchanging things. One thing I wanted to sort of get you out on, in terms of like your UFC 276 fight day schedule, I have a healthy respect for a lot of people in Europe and in other parts of the world that really have to compromise their sleep schedule and their work week to ingest 25 or 41 of these UFC live events. So for a pay-per-view of this magnitude, like, what time do you wake up? What time do you watch the fights, and do you sleep at all?
I try to sleep as much as I try to stay up late on a Friday night, put on a film, or, I'm watching Entourage back at the moment, but on that, try to stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning on a Friday night, try to sleep in as much as I can, but invariably then someone rings you at like 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning and you have to go for breakfast, you have to go do something, and then you're wrecked by the time Saturday night comes. But yeah, usually it's the prelims are midnight-ish, the early prelims, and then it's always 1 a.m. prelim, second part of prelims, 3 a.m. main card for the pay-per-views, and this weekend is God almighty, those fight night cards at a 3 a.m.
Forget it. So are you cranking out content right after, or are you going to sleep at 4 or 5 a.m.?
No, I go to sleep. So the fight, the 3 a.m. main card, I'm usually, last night, I looked at my clock and it was 7:17 when I put down my phone to go to sleep. So for the pay-per-views, I usually watch the press conference, to see what Dan has to say afterwards. And it's usually around 8:30 when I'm going to sleep that morning. And then I do the podcast usually around 12:30 or 1. So I get my good 3.5 hours, 4 hours sleep maybe. But sometimes then you have a fight and you have an unbelievable main event and there's just no sleeping after that.
Right.
There's just no sleeping after that. But I usually get my 3 or 4 hours. I'm a zombie on a Sunday then. And then I have all my content to do for Sherdog and for Severe MMA starting on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. So yeah, it's tough, but I'm so used to it now. I've been doing it for nearly over a decade as a fan and as someone covering the sport, and I'm used to it. But it's tough. It's really tough, especially at a weekend like this. We had Bellator and PFL on Friday. I was up until whatever time that was. Then Cage Warriors started at 7:30 for me here. Was finished at 11. I had half an hour of a break until 12 o'clock when the UFC started, and then 7:17. So it was basically 12 hours straight watching MMA on Saturday night. But what a weekend. I wouldn't change it. I'm not giving up. I love it.
And we appreciate your time. And you don't actually look tired, man. No bags under your eyes. You look good. You look fresh. And
Monster,
again,
I need a Monster sponsorship.
Well, you're a huge asset to the MMA space, and we appreciate you very much. The last thing I will say, just because Ray Longo's not answering his phone and I have another minute, in terms of my verbal acknowledgement of strikes on a broadcast, right, and statistics, I feel like it's not much different than the betting line, right? Like basically my thesis statement is the stats and the betting line doesn't really matter. It's just another lens through which to look at the fight. The judges' monitors, it's a program feed. They don't have statistics. Now, you might see me verbally pay off a graphic because my producers are trying to acknowledge the strike discrepancy from head to body to leg. And sometimes they want me to pay that off. But would you agree that generally speaking, like the stats, even though we appreciate all the work that goes into it and it's informational, that largely it's unofficial and doesn't really mean a whole lot?
Yeah, stats in MMA are absolutely useless. Like, and this is someone who has a degree in maths and did a lot of statistics in my time. Just useless. Like you see it in PFL, it's a great example because they're on the screen all of the time, and it might be 20 strikes to 20 strikes, and then Hen Faher, whoever it might be, comes out and lands a big right hand, puts him down. And then it's 21 strikes to 20 strikes, but there's a big difference between that one strike and the first 20 strikes that landed.
Yeah.
I was watching the Miles Price, Jeremy Stevens fight, my countryman here, and you saw the betting line. I love that in PFL, the way the betting line changes as it goes. And by the end of the fight, Miles Price was like minus 400 or something, and Jeremy Stevens ended up winning the fight. But so things can change
crazy.
Like that. It is
a lot of times they miss it. Like we were calling a fight and they didn't count like 2 takedowns. I was like, there was 2 takedowns. They didn't even count. They weren't even up on the board. Anyways,
that's the point that really annoys me about the statistics that come up on the screen and stuff like that. Because takedowns matter, and it's part of the fight. I'm sure if you're a coach and you're analyzing it and go, okay, you got 3 takedowns, you need to do a bit more of that, just to even mix things up. If you're taking lots of strikes, get a takedown. You won't be taking any strikes then for a while. But when you're talking about like the fight itself, when you're talking about the scoring of the fight, like Gamrot got a good few takedowns last night towards the second half of the fight, and one of them was great because he landed stuff when he got on top, but a lot of them were just took him down, got straight back up. Like, what are you scoring that? Like, what difference? Like, it acts like it's a big thing, but sure, if you throw a jab and it misses, that's not a very big thing, is it? It's the same thing as you getting a takedown and he gets straight back up. Look, it says in the criteria that it's not just the changing of position, but it kind of is at times. Like it can be a very good changing of position. If you're Umar Nurmagomedov and you get a mount, that's a very good changing of position because of the amount of damage you can do in that mount. But if you don't do any damage in the mount, or if you move into side control, like I always say with Habib, a lot of people would say that side control is a better position than half guard, right?
Right.
But if you're Khabib Nurmagomedov, then that's completely incorrect, because he was so effective in that half guard, and the amount of shots he could land with the control where the person on the bottom could not move. It was just, for me anyway, maybe you disagree, but I thought that was a way more effective position. So for him to move and to advance his position and go to a better position, I actually think it diminishes him and makes his ability to land strikes even less. So it's all, it's all about who the fighter is and what they actually do in that position. Because, like, look at Alexei Olenek. He wants you to mount him.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Is that an advantageous position if, he's fighting Derek Lewis and Derek Lewis mounts him? Well, maybe Derek Lewis is a pretty good mount, so maybe it is for him. But whoever it might be, it's not an advantageous position if you get Ezekiel choked there and you lose.
All right.
It's what you do there, So that's the biggest. That's the biggest key in mixed martial arts. I think it's what you do in the position, not the position you have.
Right, and you hit on a truth there. They don't score takedowns like wrestling. So oftentimes when you hear frustration on the broadcast from me or Daniel, it's because they haven't actually.
It's a pointless stat as well, though. Like,
right.
The judges aren't seeing those stats. Nobody cares about those stats. Like, the stat is how many strikes they land or the submissions they get after the takedown. Takedown stats are just pointless. If they give it, if they don't give it, makes less than zero difference to how the fight is scored.
All right, well, I would encourage you to check out the Severe MMA podcast. You can get more from Sean Sheehan on SureDog.com at Severe MMA and his personal handle at Sean Sheehan BA. My man, can't thank you enough. We will talk in July, and it's going to be the Sean Sheehan hour, so buckle up. You're getting the whole fucking hour, my man.
We need 2 hours. Thanks, lads. I appreciate it.
Thank you, my man.
Thanks,
there
man.
he is, the great Sean Sheehan with us here on the Anik and Florian podcast. And there was a lot to unpack from our judges and referees seminar. And obviously I have frustrations with certain things. There's Ray Longo joining us for his Ray Longo minute. What's up, my man?
Hey, that guy at least was common sense a little bit. That's why I said, can't we just hear from the judges? I want to hear the judges talk like that guy, with the positioning thing. At least whether we agree with it or not, can we hear it?
Right.
How'd you do it? I like the Bruce. I like the Bruce Lee shirt. Very nice.
They are very much discouraged from grabbing a microphone.
Why? Why did you ask that question while you were at the seminar?
We talked a little bit about it, and I sort of offered up. I said, "Hey, I'll interview a judge on the Anik and Florian podcast.
Yeah,
I'll send it in to the UFC's executive vice president of regulatory affairs, the great Mark Ratner, or I'll send it in if they want to vet the content, But to me, I actually think it would help the judges a little bit if they could acknowledge a bad scorecard. Keith Peterson, right? He stopped that Dominic Cruz-Henry Cejudo fight. In my opinion, retrospectively, I think it was an early stoppage. Now, at this seminar, I talked to Herb Dean about it after Dominic had left. And Herb Dean said, you have an early stoppage, you have a late stoppage, and then you have this range where it's acceptable. He felt like the Peterson stoppage was in that acceptable range. But Keith Peterson, whom I love, and whom I defended for the whole cigarettes and beer thing, he has effectively changed his style since that fight. He has learned from that fight. I can point to 8 or 10 examples where Keith Peterson now has a longer leash, and it certainly would be nice for Dominic Cruz if Keith would say, hey, you know what? If I could go back, I would still have stopped that fight then and there, or maybe because it was a championship setting and Cruz had posted, maybe I would have given him a little bit of a longer leash. But to your point, it's very hard for these athletes when the referees and judges never have to acknowledge or be accountable for their decisions.
Yeah, I think the thing with Keith Peterson is that you would have to go back before that fight and see how he was doing it too. Because you're saying he changed because of that, but he might have just had a bad night, because if you go before that fight, I don't think he was stopping fights early.
Fair point. I just feel like he has demonstrably been giving guys a little bit, an extra beat here or there, because I think in some way, shape, or form as a human being, that's in the back of his head. I could be wrong, Heard you had a big weekend, huh?
Oh man, Jiu-Jitsu James killed it. I tell you, you know what the big weekend was? I was on my way up and my tire blew out.
Oh no.
So I had to be there by 7. I guess I don't know, the COVID thing. I don't even know if anybody knows what it is anymore, but I had to be up there by 7 for it. So obviously I couldn't make the fight, so that sucked.
Oh, man.
Kenny, you got those run flats? You have that on your car? Anybody have those?
I do. On one of my cars, I do. Yeah.
I'm on my 10th tire in Long Island. The roads, they suck. I hit I mean, I had to come home like 30 miles on zero pressure. It's just horrible. You can't go above like
Awesome
30.
Name, man.
Nah, it really is I don't know. John, are you
Those
bored with
snowplows.
this?
That's
No,
why I
not
got
at
out of
all.
the snow. The snow
Yeah.
ruins the streets.
Yeah.
I'm not dealing
Yeah.
with snow anymore.
No,
Ray. That's,
Kenny, I swear to God. I guess they're great if you have a flat road.
right.
Can't do it anymore.
That's
I'm
crazy.
done.
No, I mean the
Wow.
streets in my native Massachusetts. It's a fucking
bad.
joke, man.
It's
I
bad.
mean,
It's gotta-
just like,
It's
they're
got to be bad. But Long Island is.
Yeah.
Just give us a flat road, please, for the money, for the
But no,
taxes.
Ray, I like this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I have-
exactly. You don't.
Yeah.
You guys don't pay enough taxes. That's what it is. Yeah.
But I like this conversation, right? Like I wanted to talk about your Father's Day dinner. I have enough mixed martial arts. In my life. I like to talk about flat tires.
I sent you a picture of it.
Yeah, I know. It's
How'd it
exciting.
look? How'd it look?
Amazing.
Amazing. The place
So,
is great.
I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on last night's main event, but I did want to focus the 10 or so minutes that we have today on UFC 276. And I do appreciate you waking up early for me. I have some voiceover obligations here in Vegas in about 45 minutes. But did you see that main event last night with Arman Tsarukyan and Mateusz Gamrot? And if so, what were your thoughts?
Man, high level, about as evenly matched as you could have two guys matched up. I would have given it to the other guy, but just super close fight. I thought most of the damage done on the feet was by him. I mean, he had a knockdown with the spin back fist, but I think 4 and 5 were easy. I think you give that to Gamma. And look, it's one of those fights, though. It is not. I mean, that was a high level fight, man. That was evenly matched, but he landed huge kicks. I thought just the damage was to the Arman.
Right.
I don't know, but I don't know how you are. Both guys, I wouldn't take anything away from either guy. The other guy looked like he was in a state of shock.
Yeah.
But those scrambles, Kenny, were phenomenal. I mean, I do. That's what I'm saying. If you're like I'm not into the wrestling. I mean, obviously I have to be into it, but I could watch that shit all day long. I mean, nobody given an eighth of an inch. I mean, it was crazy. It reminded me of when he fought Makhachev, Islam, that time. No, I said, this kid is he's good. Maybe a little undersized, but he's
fast as hell too. By the way,
man,
those kicks are fast.
Oh man, they were powerful too. Powerful.
Yeah.
But catching the kicks up on one leg, still not going down, being run across the octagon.
Oh,
thinking the guy's down, he's crazy. It was just
awesome.
a beautiful
awesome.
fight. Really a beautiful fight to watch. Yeah. So, I mean, I hope everybody just enjoy it. That's a fight I wouldn't even want to score.
Right.
You
So I'm watching the prelims with Dominic Cruz, who is out here in Las Vegas. We were out here for the seminar. Neither of us were working the show last night. So we're at a restaurant watching the prelims on his phone. And he pulls up the feed and it's in Spanish, right? So I'm thinking, is he watching in Spanish because like Marlon Chito Vera, his opponent, is the Spanish commentator? I know Dom understands some Spanish, maybe not as much as Kenny Florian per se. But I'm sort of wondering why he's watching the broadcast in Spanish, right? So then we go to his house, right? And he puts the fights on. And I'm thinking, all right, this is going to be in English now. And it's still in Spanish, you know? And then I'm like, well, at least when Michael Bisping's interviewing somebody after the fight, I can actually understand that because it's in English. But just absolutely hilarious.
But I'm saying he did that to bust your balls, obviously.
Yeah, I guess so. Or to, I had no choice but to tweet about it,
Dom doesn't listen to commentary. He doesn't listen to
It was funny at first.
So
and then it was like, all right, man, I'd like to do the English part of the broadcast, But all right, I would like to ask you a little bit about UFC 276. And I wanted to start with Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski because their second fight was exceedingly close. Since that fight, Max Holloway put forth what I think is maybe the singular greatest performance I've ever seen against Calvin Kattar. And then he beat Yair Rodriguez. On the other side, Alexander Volkanovski looks like he's 10 times the fighter than he was in that second fight with Max Holloway. So as we sit here early in fight week, Volkanovski is minus 180. Max Holloway is plus 155. What do you have on that fight, Raymond?
I'm exactly what Kenny has. I'm shaking my head.
What do you do?
I have no way. I mean, all I'm going to do is make shit up at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm going to say this. Holloway needs to have a Kattar type performance to win that fight. right? I don't think they're going to give it. I think a close fight is going to go to Volkanovski again, unfortunately, even if he's slightly ahead. I think he needs to really have a dominant performance, and it's going to be really tough against Volkanovski. But, I mean, he looks like he came up with a couple of different things with how he's sparring, how he's preparing. So maybe he'll carry through to this fight. We'll see. But, and with that being said, you kind of like Holloway. I think because you kind of like him, but the other, I don't know. I really don't know.
It is
minus
180 of the sport.
Minus 180 is kind of What's Holloway plus what?
Plus 155. I mean, largely for me, it just screams lay off and find another fight to bet on. I think I agree with you on that. I lead with that because I really feel like historically we're going to go back and look at this series, and this might not be their last meeting, but this is one of the biggest fights in the history of the sport that's happening, and it's a co-headliner, which is just insane.
It's a little bit of like the little guys, Figueiredo and they're just really. So imagine if Gamut was the champion and he has to keep fighting this guy, dude, those fights are close, man. Right. I mean, I don't know if one guy has it in him to be dominant. Like after watching that, like it was just a great fight that was very evenly matched up. I mean, evenly matched up at a high level, like not too, like Gotti Ward was a good fight, but it's not high level boxing, right? It was good boxing, really good boxing, but these guys were it was off the hook, I thought, to me.
And it's a little bit of a tricky thing from a matchmaking perspective at featherweight because we do have a show on ABC in a few weeks. Yair Rodriguez and Brian Ortega will be in the main event. The cupboard is not bare at all, right? I mean, Josh Emmett obviously has emerged. You have Arnold Allen, Calvin Kattar to whatever degree. But if Max Holloway wins on points and puts an end to Alexander Volkanovski's 21-fight winning streak, I mean, you don't think there are grounds for a fourth meeting between these two guys? So I think if you're Yair Rodriguez, who is long overdue in my mind, you just need something clean here. Ideally, you're getting a finish, from Volkanovski or something that will just give you the finality you need so that the division can move forward. I'm not sure we get it. I think this fight and the result might set the stage for a fourth meeting. So.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can say is, like, if I'm Holloway, I know I have to put like an exclamation point. So I think he's got the motivation he's got to up something, right? He has to stand out in this fight, and he's definitely got the ability to do it. I think maybe in those fights, he's just so comfortable, and maybe he thinks he's winning, but now he's really got to go. Now he knows that isn't going to get him the win. And he's got the volume to really push a crazy fight. So I'm actually leaning towards Holloway. It's hard to do it with like the guy. I'd rather stay away from the fight. But and Volkanovski's such a steady Eddie that how do you get past that? I don't know. But you're right though. It's but Holloway's he's got to be he's just got to be head and shoulders above what people are looking at. Like I think so. He's not going to get it,
Well, I appreciate you answering the wake up call early today. Yeah. Cody says sometimes you sleep into the PM on the weekends, but you look great. You look fresh.
The PM.
Yeah, he says you sleep sometimes till afternoon. Is that true?
No, I get my PMS early in the morning. If I do. What the heck are you doing?
Man. Yeah.
Wait, what about the co-main? What about the co-main event, Kenny?
I like the problem.
I like those Russian hats like Khabib wears and Merab wears. They have different. This guy had a full-fledged raccoon on his head. Yeah. You just said, Kenny, the thing had a tail. I really thought it was like the honeymoons. We were going to get the raccoon salute. Woo,
he probably killed it with his bare hands.
Yeah,
right. Like, he did.
I thought he was fighting Davy Crockett for a minute. I'm not joking. But that kid's a problem too.
No, he's a real problem. I think he's the fast track.
Holy crap! What do you?
Oh,
and on this farm we had a raccoon. E-I-E-I-O. Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
I love it. Well,
hold on, wait. Before, because we got past the other thing. Jiu-Jitsu James. I made it about my fucking tire, which it wasn't.
Yeah.
What a great fight for that guy. That guy was ranked number 9. I'm sure he was brought in to lose. The other guy was 6-0, but man, James, what a great fight. So happy for this kid. He does a lot for the gym, and he's just he hasn't had the easiest upbringing, and just to see him, I hope they do the right thing by him because he deserves it. He's really just a nice kid, and he's got a couple of mouths to feed. So I hope they do the right thing by him. Yeah, really, Kenny, you'd love it. MMA Jiu-Jitsu was good. I don't know if you saw the. Oh no, you actually were you were commentating, which was crazy too. I was flipping back and forth. You had some good fights too. Chris Wade, shout out to Chris Wade too. Long Island guy, yeah,
great man, yeah.
He's on fire. That guy. Ever since leaving the UFC, he was always tough, but I think he's so relaxed now. You're just seeing the total expression of what Chris Wade wants to do, and he's always had it for sure. I've seen him in the gym, but he is on fire. That kid. Congrats to him. Yeah.
He's one of the few New Yorkers I actually root pretty hard for. You know, I felt like
really
from a matchmaking standpoint in the UFC, I felt like, you know, they certainly didn't do him any favors, and maybe there were some close fights that could have gone his way. So I've always sort of had a soft spot for Chris Wade, but you know, he's fighting a fucking Bostonian, Kyle Bochniak. Was he not? Was he not?
He was.
All right, Raymond. Well, we're gonna let you go. We got Brian Petrie waiting in the wings.
Brian Petrie's in the wings. And when
my brother has COVID, sick as a fucking dog, so probably not coming out for UFC 276.
Oh, no.
So,
he does have COVID.
Yeah.
First time?
Got him good. Yeah. Got him good, you know.
He's got the vaccination.
Yeah, he's got all that stuff.
He's got all the booster in.
His daughter got pretty sick too with it. So yeah.
Damn. Man, that is crazy, man.
Florida's getting slammed right now.
Are they
for whatever it's worth, you know. My daughter's camp is rampant. I mean, more than I think 24 cases or something.
That's crazy, man. Long Island, definitely nobody's in the hospital for sure.
Yeah,
I always check in with that, but that's crazy, man. That's but I feel bad about that. I'm glad I sent them what I ate, so maybe that made them feel better. That's it.
Good. Yeah.
Wait,
no,
you know
it was
what?
Interesting last week when we did the show on Father's Day, and I just started to softly bring you in, and all you wanted to do was talk about fighting. It's like,
how about this? How about this? In a couple of weeks, when you come out, carve out a half hour. I'll take you there on me.
There is no doubt I am prioritizing.
Let me tell you something. We go to whatever restaurant you want.
I'll go wherever you want. You know.
All right.
I just don't want to go to Mark Henry's joint because I don't want to talk about the Buffalo Bills. But anywhere else,
you want Thai mango and shrimp?
I kind of do.
Oh man,
we do a little fancy dinner, you and me.
Mixture of those flavors. Ooh,
my treat. Okay.
No, my treat.
No, you know what we'll use? We'll use
it's on me.
We can use the Ask Hemfo if we can use the Anik and Florian LLC card.
Hey, there you go. All right, hey, Ray. Yes.
Yeah.
Ray. Have a great day and a better evening.
All right, call me this week. I'm dying to catch up on that seminar.
I know. I owe you a phone call. We got to talk.
Yeah,
we had that judges and refereeing seminar.
I'd love to hear all about it. I'd love to hear all about that. What was accomplished? Just tell me it was a yes fest, wasn't it? It was who could pump their chest out more.
At times, it got contentious and combative actually at times. But
not contentious.
I wish Ray was there.
You should have taken a fucking flamethrower to that place. What do you mean contentious?
Yeah.
All right. No, I'm dying. Give me a buzz. All right, guys.
We'll talk. I'll call you Monday.
Have a great Sunday, guys. Take it easy. Goodbye.
The great Ray Longo with us for the Ray Longo Minute here on the Anik and Florian Podcast. Yeah, it was largely fruitful, I would say, overall. And just to give you one quick thing before we get to Brian Petrie here. So in terms of like fouls, one thing that I was able to extract is, you know, sometimes when they're warning for fouls, you know, the word that Jason Herzog used was guidance, you know. So sometimes when a commentator sees a fence grab, I'm like, oh my God, he did it again. And, you know, it might not have a huge impact necessarily on the fight. So you might see Herzog more of in a guiding way than an imperative way, like, hey man, I'm going to take a point, you know. So there were little things that I think will help me overall with my commentary, you know, leaning away from stats a little bit. You know, we also learned a little bit about how they score fights. And, you know, I was sort of thinking, you know, you have one human being assigned to the blue corner and one person assigned to the red corner. I think it must be nice to just have to see, you know, focus on one athlete, see how much they land or don't, and just count those strikes, you know, because it really is hard calling simultaneous strikes in real time on both guys.
Of course. And listen, it's this Americanized ESPN inspired thing, right? Where, the media believes it's like, we need to give them stats so they can understand the sport.
Yeah.
And it's like, for basketball, maybe that's the case. Maybe that helps. And football even, or whatever, how many yards they ran or whatever, it makes sense. But for MMA, it's, largely not very effective.
And the UFC has invested a lot of money in it, and rightfully so, I think, in a lot of respects. I think a lot of what they're doing and some of the advanced stuff that they're working on that is going to be revealed in the future, I think could be really beneficial. But generally speaking, if you are a mixed martial arts fan listening to this show and scoring fights on your own, don't get caught up in the stats, because largely they don't matter. All right. UFC 276 beckons. Let us get to the main event challenge.
It's the main event challenge. Anik.
The time is most definitely now.
Florian.
I finish fights. I'm going to do everything possible to win.
The main event challenge. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
Boys,
Yo.
what's up?
There he is. There he is.
How you
Big
doing?
Gun Brian Petrie on social media. He is at Brian Petrie MMA. What's up, my man? Good Sunday to you.
Hey, good Sunday. Action Man won last night. That's what I'm talking about. Had a good
Rodolfo
night.
Vieira was robbed. Okay. And it was a clear win for Gamrot. I mean, it was no controversy whatsoever. That was just clear.
No, I'm very happy.
You
Chris
won that one, Petrie.
Yeah, I won that one. I keep my hair. A lot of people very excited to see Kenny do a shoey. I was very surprised the overwhelming amount of people going, yeah, Ken Flo. I know he was radio silent on Twitter, but yeah, I mean, we're good. I lost my my parlay. I had a banner night. I had Armin winning, obviously green color glasses or not. I had him winning that fight. It was a very close fight. I mean, I can't complain too much, but I did have him winning. So yeah, we're here, babe.
With a lot of these close fights and main events, it's just I feel for people sometimes ripping up tickets, but I don't know.
Yeah,
find a baseball game.
That was a big
Some
win
these
for
fights,
Florian, though.
Like candidly, I can say it now. I can
Kenny?
say it now retrospectively. Like I thought there was tremendous value on Matau's game.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that was my pick. But I did convince myself to go Armin, but then I wanted to go opposite Kenny. But I mean, I still bet him, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, good pick there by Kenny.
And Cody will try to get us the updated standings potentially over the course of the next 20 minutes or so. But if not, Cody, it's no huge deal. Time permitting, I guess we're going to have like 9 predictions today. So I do want to get into them as expeditiously as I could. And it appears as though the Miesha Tate Lauren Murphy fight that was to be on the pay-per-view is no more. Miesha was minus 165. Lauren Murphy was plus 140. It appears as though Murphy was forced to pull out of that fight. Remains to be seen as to whether or not they get a flyweight replacement for Miesha Tate. But we will begin with a prelim at welterweight. Ian Gary minus 155. Gifted Gabe Green plus 135. The future Ian Gary looking to stay undefeated. Green has definitely turned the corner, especially after that PRK vision procedure. Love the matchmaking here, Brian Petrie. You going Ian Gary or Gifted Gabe Green?
He needs to change his name to the Daisy because Conor McGregor nicknamed him, called him a Daisy. Got a Daisy tattoo. Ian Gary, that is.
I like that.
Listen, yeah, I like it too. I think
we have cool. Another future on this card in Macy Barber, do we not?
Yeah, I mean that's generic. Let's go the Daisy here. But Ian Gary's the type of guy where you love him or you hate him. Confident kid, unproven, whatever. I'm on the side that loves him here. I love this price. I thought we were going to get a little bit higher here. Gabe Green has looked good. He's fought guys in the UFC with similar body types and Phil Rowe and everything. But Ian Gary, I think, is different. Faster, more powerful, polished. And, Gabe Green is out of his losses, 2 of them come first-round knockouts. So I think Ian Gary is going to jump on him early. He's a very patient fighter, but I think if you can clip him early, get him out there early, that's what I like. I like Ian Gary by KO, and I'm playing it, baby. Let's go.
Good cap, BP. Kevflo, what do you think? Ian Gary favored here, minus 155 against Gabe Green.
Not a whole lot to say. BP pretty much broke it down. Great. Ian Gary as well.
All right, huge fight at lightweight. Jalen Turner is cannonball coming, pursuing a ranking here. He's the minus 120 favorite against Brad Riddell, who comes back the even money underdog. So Riddell trying to rally from what was his first UFC loss to his good friend Rafael Fiziev. Turner on the other side is 1-4 in a row, all by finish. And this is one of several pick'em type fights at UFC 276. Brian, I know you love these type of fights. Which way you going? Jalen Turner, the slight favorite, or Brad Riddell, the dog?
Man, I want to take the dog shot so bad here, but the problem is I promised myself I won't fade Jalen Turner. Out of his 6 UFC fights, I faded him 4 times.
Oh, wow.
I'm losing money on this guy, and he's looked fucking great. And it's time to get on the Jalen Turner side. Now, I will say this, though. Brad Riddell has been in camp with Volkanovski and Izzy. We saw Carlos Ulberg last night. These guys are looking sharp. I think Riddell coming off a loss over Rafael Aziz, which I'm sure he's a little embarrassed about because they were training partners, and I think Riddell trained him. There was some history there. So he's going to come in the best that he's ever had before. But, I just think he's a little undersized compared to Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner's enormous. I think Jalen Turner's got to have the advantage on the ground if it ever gets there. But I'm going Turner by decision. I think he can outpoint him with his distance and everything. So give me Jalen Turner.
Ken Flo, Jalen Turner, Brad Riddell, very close on the number. Which way you going?
This is going to be a great fight either way. Listen, I think Riddell definitely has the ability to win this fight. Just based on his forward pressure, his offensive abilities, his speed, his power, all that good stuff. But for me, I haven't seen him change to the point where I'm like, he hits and doesn't get hit. He stays right in front of you. And that's why he does take a lot of damage. Even in the fights that he wins, it's always like, woo, like, man, he got hit with some shots. Jalen Turner has a reach advantage and a speed and a timing and a confidence right now that I think just makes him too dangerous. I can't bet against the kid. Same way. I haven't always been on the Jalen Turner train. I am now. I think he's someone to watch. I think he has a ton of potential and really is coming into his own. This is a bad time to be fighting Jalen Turner. I like Jalen Turner here.
Yeah, man, some tough matchmaking for Brad Riddell, right? Fiziev and Jalen Turner back to back. All right, next up at welterweight, the former undisputed UFC champion Robbie Lawler, slightly favored here, -125 against the farmer Brian Bam Bam Barberena. Barberena +105. Kempflo, we'll start with you on this one. Barberena asked for this fight after the win over Matt Brown, got a new contract, got the fight. On the other side, you have Robbie Lawler after finishing Nick Diaz up at middleweight, back down to the friendly confines at 171 pounds. You going Lawler the favorite or Barberena the dog?
I mean, Sean Shelby, if he made this fight, this guy knows what he's doing. Good job, Shelby. The Robbie Lawler and Brian Barberena, these guys are just made to fight each other. I feel like I don't think I've ever seen Barberena in a bad fight. Robbie Lawler, 90% of his fights, and there have been so many at a high level, have been exciting. So this is going to be bananas while it lasts. If it goes the distance, it'll be a classic. But I think Robbie Lawler's high level fight experience is the difference here. Barberena, of course, does get hit. Robbie Lawler has been a little bit more conservative in his approach. Still exciting, still aggressive, but more defensively sound than we've seen him. And he's going to have to be that against Barberena here. And I think his wrestling is good enough against Barberena where he could stop some takedowns and stuff like that. That's where we see Robbie really get slowed down, is when he's on his back, fighting to get back to his feet. But I think this is going to be a wild fight. I like this one. Robbie Lawler, the legend, for the win. But Barberena should have every single fan out there. The dude is
oh, yeah. TV. Brian, Robbie Lawler appears to be in a really good place at this stage of his career. Certainly makes a lot of money just to show, right? But he's enjoying being at Sanford MMA, being in Florida, being a teammate. He's enjoying giving back to the sport. I just think mentally, physically, he's still in a very good place, despite the fact that he's got to be coming up on 40. Your thoughts here on Lawler against Brian Barberena?
I mean, how stacked is this card that we're putting Bob Lawler in the prelims? I mean, that is nuts. I love the call out by Brian Barberena and that he got the fight. I thought he lost the fight to Matt Brown. My Ohio crowd booed Brian Barberena, which he seems like a good guy. Didn't deserve the boos. It was a close fight, but the problem with Barberena is he gets in these sloppy fights and he always slows down towards the end. He did that in the Matt Brown fight, and he wills himself to victory. He's so tough. Robbie Lawler, I don't think a lot of people are giving him enough respect over the Nick Diaz. The Nick Diaz fight, the theme was Nick's back. Oh, Nick's not fighting 85. Nick doesn't look in great shape. But Robbie went out there and rolled with the punches. Oh, we're doing 85 now? Okay, no big deal. We're going to do, and Nick threw like 2,000 fucking punches at him. And Robbie stood in there and took him out, and Robbie, I think, is now 40, according to Tapology. So, but I see him being in phenomenal shape. And I see him coming out here, and he's a little bit of a slow starter at times. I think the first round's gonna be a nice little feeling out. That's Brian Barberena's most dangerous round. But Bob Lawler by violence here. Give me a finish, Bob Lawler. I'm going to play it. I like this fight.
All right, let us get to pay-per-view. We have 4 selections and then some quick picks on the way out. I mean, Andre Muniz and fucking Uriah Hall, Jim Miller, Donald Cerrone. So many big fights at 276. But we will now get to Sean O'Malley, the Sugar Show, minus 260, taking on Pedro Munoz. The bantamweight staple comes back at plus 220. We'll lead with you, Brian, on this. I kind of feel like it's a bad time to be fighting Pedro Munoz, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's fighting for his job, but there's a lot of pressure on both sides of this fight. But for Pedro Munoz, back-to-back losses to Jose Aldo and Dominic Cruz, he needs this one in the worst way. I'm not sure if he gets it. Your thoughts on the young Punisher here against the streaking Sugar Sean O'Malley?
Yeah, so I make no secrets about it. If you listen to my podcast, I'm a biased guy. I mean, listen, I'll never pick against Chris, even if he goes against, the fucking Godzilla, right? I'm biased.
Right.
I'm a Sugar guy. I like Sugar Sean O'Malley, but I am so torn because the value boy in me is saying Pedro Munoz at 2-1 is fucking gorgeous. He has fought the who's who. He looked good. He looked good in the Dom fight. He clipped Dom early on, and then kind of the fight got away from him, and the problem with Pedro is sometimes he fights with, just I train with the Brazilian boxing team, so I'm just going to box. But he's lights out on the ground. He's really good on the ground. And that's the thing with Sugar Shows. We don't know. Like, he did the Invitational. He beat Gomi. That was cool. But we just don't really know about his ground game. So as a Sugar fan, I got to answer these questions. Like, am I afraid of the leg kicks? Yeah, I'm afraid of the calf kicks because we don't know. Am I afraid of going on the ground? Yes, I'm afraid of going. I'm answering all these questions because I'm a Sugar guy, because ultimately, I think he's going to be a huge star. I think he's supremely talented on the feet. I mean, what he did to Jaime Paiva last fight after we saw what Paiva did last night, that was a decapitation. That was great. But Sugar is good for MMA because he could be a big star in MMA. And that's what I root for. I root for the sport of MMA. I root for the guys like Conor McGregor, these huge stars. And I think that's what Sugar Sean O'Malley can be. And you're right. This is a tough time to fight Munoz because I think he's an elite guy and he's fought the who's who. His resume is better. But again, I'm a biasy guy. I don't think I can play this straight up money line at Sugar Sean at minus 260. I think it's a little beefy. So I'm going to go extra value and go Sugar by KO because no one's ever KO'd Pedro. And Sugar can do it. I mean, if he lands the right shot. So give me Sugar by KO.
Yeah, I'm on the Sugar Sean O'Malley train as well in terms of his ceiling and his future. For Pedro Munoz, Ken Flo, former 2-time no-gi jiu-jitsu world champion, over 800 jiu-jitsu matches, not necessarily a proficient takedown artist in MMA per se, but how do you handicap this fight and how do you think Pedro Munoz might approach it stylistically?
Munoz is tough. He's clearly going to have to pressure forward, try to slow O'Malley down because O'Malley's footwork is just light years ahead of Munoz's. And to be honest, I don't like this matchup for Munoz.
Yeah.
I do like this matchup a lot for O'Malley. And I probably say this every single fight, almost every single fight, but the people that are picking the fights for Sean O'Malley, kudos to you guys. You guys know what the hell you're doing. And Munoz is a dangerous fighter, okay? He can win this fight. But if you are a guy with little to no footwork and you come in here flat-footed and you plod forward against someone like Sean O'Malley, I'm sorry, but you're going to get beat up, and you're going to get beat up bad. You're not going to be able to get on the inside. O'Malley's jab is going to be firing. He's going to be smashing you with kicks. And it's his footwork's too good. He's too good at getting in and out, and then he's got a reach advantage that is significant here. I don't know. I don't like this fight for Munoz. I think it's a tough fight for him. I have a lot of respect for him based on what he's done both in jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts. He's as tough as they come. But O'Malley here is going to win, and he very much. And I agree with Petrie here. I think it could be by knockout.
Hey, as a Sugar Sean O'Malley fan, I want to run through a brick wall after hearing that. Let's go, Kenny. Let's go. Now,
by the way, all
going on Sugar.
Betting odds provided by DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the Anik and Florian podcast. And if you did have $100 on all of Kenny's selections last week, you would have been in the black, plus $52.43 on Brian Petrie. $100 last week, you would have been in the hole, minus $98. Cody has figured out a pretty good system for the scoring, but pretty close last week. All right, featured bout at middleweight. Alex Pereira minus 115, Sean Strickland minus 105. So Strickland, the slight underdog here, despite the fact that he's going for a 7 straight win. On the other side, you have Pereira, decorated former kickboxer, trains with Glover Teixeira there in Danbury, Connecticut. but just 2-0 in the UFC to date. And being thrown to the wolves, Bri, he's a wolf himself. Your thoughts on Pereira here as the slight favorite against Sean Strickland?
You know, you've been getting too much too soon. We've been getting that a lot lately. It's too much too soon. Izzy had a great answer for that. You know, he referenced Jiri Prochazka getting a title shot after 2 fights. I mean, this guy is a high-level guy. Pereira's a freak. Like, he really is. I'm amazed every time I watch this guy strike. I mean, the Bruno Silva fight, a lot of people are like, very close fight, but Bruno Silva's a dangerous guy, and Pereira probably had one of his worst performances in MMA, and he still dropped him like a handful of times and looked good. And he's probably the best kickboxer, I mean, to ever come over to MMA. I mean, credentially, I mean, there's other guys, but he's 5-1, he's successful. And I'm kind of looking past Strickland here, which is probably a bad thing because I really want to see the Pereira-Izzy matchup. I think that the hype's going to be, you know, Izzy's already talking about it. I think it's going to be a real deal. Strickland, though, he's literally insane. Like, you know, my buddy Chris Curtis and him are good friends. I hear these stories about Sean Strickland. I follow him on social media. He is a one-of-a-kind dude, and you think, oh, okay, he's going to have the MMA advantage. But he flies out to Florida and trains with K1 kickboxers. Like, this guy's not wrestling. He's not bringing in wrestlers. Like, this guy's wanting to put his pace on him, pressure him forward, put his hands in his face, and I think he wants to make a statement. That's what he wants to do. I think it's a bad idea. Sean's been knocked out before. He's been dropped before. And Pereira is just different, man. So I'm gonna take Pereira by KO here.
Kempfel, what do you think? Pereira, Strickland?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it short. I definitely wouldn't sleep on Strickland. I think he's got a decent shot, more than people think. However, I agree with BP here. Strickland's probably going to get emotional, try to prove a point. You don't do that against someone like Pereira. I like Pereira here as well.
All right, co-headliner for the UFC featherweight title. We mentioned the odds earlier. It is the third meeting between Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway. Volk minus 180, Holloway plus 155. For the undisputed UFC featherweight championship. Brian Petrie, Volkanovski, Holloway, Act 3. Your thoughts?
Talk about an impossible fight to pick. I mean, literally, what I've looked at when I capped this fight is what they've done since. And they both have been on fucking fire. Volkanovski's looked amazing, been active, going, keep me fighting. I'll fight whoever, and I'm going to go out there, I'm going to finish him. That's what he did against Korean Zombie. He said, I know a lot of people say, you know, I'm going to finish fight. I'm going to go out there and finish him. He did. He looked phenomenal. Looked great in the Brian Ortega fight. But Max Holloway's butchering people. You know, he butchered Calvin Kattar. He butchered Yair Rodriguez. Competitive fight, but he showed Yair there's levels to this. So it's like, what are you going to do? I have in my scorebook, even though it doesn't fucking matter, I have a 1-1. Obviously, I think a lot of people can make an argument about this and that. But, you know, Volkanovski has the green stripes on his record, so it doesn't matter. Confidence is high in Volkanovski. Confidence is high in Max Holloway. I mean, what do you do? This is such a tough fight to handicap, to pick straight up. This is definitely a prop play. Cody set in the chat over 4.5. I know it's a little chalky, but that's a good parlay piece if you want to parlay other things together. Because I don't think these guys are you know, gonna knock each other out or finish each other. It's gonna be another decision. It's gonna be another close decision. But listen, when you give me plus money, I'm a fucking plus money shark. I'm going to go Max Holloway at the plus money. I mean, no disrespect to Volkanovski. It's just like you're giving me plus 155. You know, this is 1A, 1B at 145. I'm going to take it. So, yeah, give me Holloway. But I wouldn't be surprised by anything in this fight. I'm super fucking excited.
Yeah, Ken-Flo, market improvements on both sides. I guess to my eyes, maybe Volkanovski has progressed a little bit more since that second meeting, but I really have no idea how this fight's going to go. Just thankful to be in the building. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, listen, I love the breakdown that Brian had. I agree with a lot of those points. And John, I agree that Volkanovski probably has improved skill-wise. But I think that Holloway's the kind of guy, based on his experience and his MMA IQ, that he knows how to adapt to opponents, right? It's not that he's getting so much better, but he's so smart and knows how to make the proper adjustments in a fight. And I think in a fight that's this close, and when you look at the history of these guys, I think you do have to go with the underdog here as well. That said, as good as Holloway looked in his last fight against Rodriguez, his last fight was against Yair, right?
Yeah.
I think we're going to need a higher level than even that, because there were certain points where Yair, based on his speed and maybe Max trying to adjust during that fight, where I felt that, you know, that Max Holloway might not be good enough to beat this Alexander Volkanovski. We're going to need the dude. We're going to need the Holloway that beat Cater. We're going to need the Holloway that beat Ortega. Like we need that kind of Holloway. He has to be at his best. And I think he can pull it off. I have immense respect for Volkanovski. I do think he's improving. No question about it, John. I think he's a phenomenal grappler. I think as far as MMA IQ and decision-making and adjustments during fights, there's few that are better than Volkanovski. But I think Holloway's range, his intelligence, the fact that they've met together so much, and the overall experience as far as minutes in the octagon for Holloway, I think is significant enough that he wins this fight. I think it's going to be close, but I like Max here.
Very interesting from Brian Petrie and Kenny Florian on the co-headliner. That brings us to the main event. Israel Adesanya now minus 365 against the Killer Gorilla Jared Cannonier, who is plus 300. I know Izzy gets sensitive when I talk about the number of title defenses because he alleges that his Whitaker win, the first one, should be a title defense. So I guess that's neither here nor there. But certainly, Bri, I would argue Adesanya is prohibitively favored here. Perhaps some still see the value of minus 365. What are your thoughts on the middleweight championship main event and who gets their hand raised?
I'm an Izzy guy, and I love the new blood. I love that he's coming off 2 rematches, and it looked like, in the Vettori fight, in the Whitaker fight, even though Whitaker's high level, and some people actually had Whitaker winning that fight, but it just seemed like he was a little like, I've done this before. He's been bringing up Cannonier for a while, calling him the dark horse of the division when Cannonier was kind of coming up. He ran into Robert Whitaker and then kind of slowed down. But Cannonier is an interesting guy. He's a brick wall. You know what I mean? He's a big dude. He changed his complete life from moving from Alaska to Arizona. His body completely changed. I mean, this guy is a stud. But again, I'm an Izzy guy. I went to Atlanta, saw him fight in Atlanta against Kevin Gastelum when he won the interim belt. And again, this is back to the sugar thing. This kid's a star. He's marketable. He's good for the sport, and he's amazing. I like what he's saying in this camp. He's saying he's gonna come out there. He's gonna make this look like Anderson Silva versus Forrest Griffin, and I think that's a good analogy because Jared Cannonier is slow, right? He's powerful, and his hands and his kicks are a little bit faster than his hands, but his hands are very slow. He's very plodding. I think Izzy wants to pick him apart on the outside. I think Izzy wants to come for a finish. I know it's not easy. He's never been knocked out at 185, but he did get knocked out by Dominic Reyes at 205. He did get knocked out at heavyweight by Sean Jordan, so there is room there, and I believe Robert Whitaker bounced him around a little bit in their fight. It's not going to be easy, but I see Izzy kind of wanting to make a statement here. I don't want him to go into safe mode. I want him to go Paulo Costa mode and go after this guy because I think he can do it with his speed and power. So I'm going to go Izzy by KO.
Kempfla, what do you think? Adesanya Cannonier under the lights here Saturday night.
Yeah, I've been so impressed with the changes that Jared Cannonier has made in his life, in his technique, in his approach. He's a very impressive dude, very intelligent guy. But I do think that it's similar to, the O'Malley Munoz fight where Cannonier is so tough. But footwork is going to be an issue. And range is going to be an issue. If you don't have good footwork, or he has good footwork. If you don't have great footwork and you are down on reach, it's going to be very difficult. You got to clip Adesanya hard, and you need Adesanya to make major mistakes during that fight. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is it probable? I don't think so. And so I think Izzy takes this one. His reach, his tools, his weapons, his speed, his footwork primarily for me is going to be the difference here. The champ going to stay the champ.
All right, let us get some quick picks here on the way out. At middleweight, Brad Tavares minus 115, Dracus du Plessis minus 105. Brian Petrie, will you have a pick on that fight?
I will. I like du Plessis in that fight.
Kenflo, Tavares, du Plessis.
Let's go du Plessis as well.
All right, Andre Muniz minus 245 against Uriah Hall plus 205. Who do you guys like there? Kenflo, Muniz, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player, or the striker Uriah Hall?
Muniz, he's hot right now.
BP?
Yeah, Muniz as well. He's special on the ground. Kid's a beast.
All right, and then as yet, no betting line on DraftKings Sportsbook on Jim Miller and Donald Cerrone. Brian, will you have a strong lean on this fight?
I've been thinking about it's a rematch. Obviously, let's just go Cowboy. Give me Cowboy.
Kenflo?
Yeah, I can't go the other way. I'm going to go Cerrone as well.
I thought he
Yeah,
was going
sorry.
Jim Miller. That's why I figured.
Yeah.
All right, Brian Petrie elevating the entire podcast every week. You can get more from him at Brian Petrie MMA. That includes the MMA Takes podcast as well. My man.
Let's go.
I listened to your podcast. You said you don't have any hair at all on your body. I'm very envious.
I don't.
As someone who gets
I have a little. You see this? I have no armpit hair. I have no leg hair. I got hair on my head. That's
what I would do. What I would do.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I would never have to shave my head. All right, we will talk to you next week, my man. Appreciate it very much.
All right, boys.
See you,
boys.
There he is, Brian Petrie, with us for the main event challenge. All right, Cody MERRROW, I wouldn't mind seeing your face for a minute, but I really got to go.
Literally a minute.
Red Sox hat. How about the Boston Red Sox? Fucking 10 games over 500 right now after the way they started the season, the Fighting Alex Coras. But I got to go to a studio in about 2 minutes. So what do you have for us, Cody?
Well, so spinning everything forward. Big week ahead for the Anik and Florian podcast, YouTube channel, and all of the members involved here. Unfortunately, no Kenny. Julia Budd dropped out, but Kayla Harrison's still fighting on Friday. I made the call. I tried to be like, hey, like, not that big of a fight. Like, can we get Kenny to go to Vegas? Can we just, like, fill the spot? Don Davis wasn't having it. So I like the new haircut, though, Don. It looks great. UFC 276 International Fight Week, tentative UFC basketball run Wednesday night. Going to be filmed by Anatomy of a Fighter's Will Harris, Bilal Muhammad, Jamal Hill, Walt Harris. Michael Chiesa said that he'll watch.
Yeah.
That's probably a little better for his basketball acumen there.
Especially if there's going to be video, he should definitely watch.
Right. Maybe free throw contest, but I don't know. We're going to have real refs instead of the ones that you had for your contest, John.
Yeah. There you go.
UFC 276 presser at 2:00 on Thursday. Awards ceremony 7:30.
Hosted by.
I wasn't going to drop it. I didn't know if that was
Let's go.
privileged information.
Yeah.
John's gonna be looking good in his Mark Russell suit. Friday, UFC Expo. I'm gonna be there with the MMA Underground with John Morgan, aka Sports Illustrated MMA. We're gonna be there for like 8 hours, interviewing people, shaking hands, kissing babies. So you can catch me over there on that feed, making a fool of myself probably, but before I hit the blackjack table and the bookies,
There you go.
And then the hat is on purpose. Red Sox, hottest team in baseball, 6-game win streak, won 10 of our last 12. And yesterday, the Yankees got no hit by the Astros. So you guys suck. We're coming for you.
There you go. Cody MERRROW with the MERRROW Seconds on the way out. And yes, Cody will be here in Vegas repping the Anik and Florian podcast. Hopefully, if you are in Vegas, you will join us at the T-Mobile Arena for the UFC Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Thursday night. That is one of the more special things I do all year. Yes, sir.
One last thing. We got Fight Pass exclusive content coming up this week on Fight Pass. We're going to watch one of Kenny's fights and live commentate it. It's going to be great.
Can't wait to do it.
UFC
Just
Fight
waiting
Pass.
on the footage. But yes, Ken Flo and I are going to look back at one of his earlier fights, and that should be some pretty cool content exclusively on UFC Fight Pass. Also coming up on Friday, I'll be hosting the UFC 278 press conference with Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. So this is going to be the biggest, busiest week of my professional life. I'm excited to get it started. Don't forget, remember the show with Bilal Muhammad and Jason Anna coming up on Thursday. AnikFlorianPodcast.com for your merchandise needs. FAM15 is the promo code to get 15% off. KennyFlorianMartialArts.com is live as well. Don't forget to check out our one-on-one with Dominic Cruz. That's on the Anik and Florian Podcast YouTube channel. And you can go to millions.co if you want the city-themed limited edition Las Vegas One More Sleep t-shirts. I will tell you, there are a lot of knockoffs out there. We got people making One More Sleep t-shirts with my name on it that we're not selling. The only place to get them, millions.co. All right, thank you to our sponsors, UFC Fight Pass and DraftKings Sportsbook. Thanks to our guests, Ray Longo, Sean Sheehan, and Brian Petrie, and of course, our executive producer, Cody MERRROW. Ken Flo, have a great vacation, man. I appreciate you getting up early, and I guess we'll talk to you next Sunday, my man.
Thank you, brother. Safe travels, man. Kill it. I'll be watching.
All right, that is it for episode 354. We will talk to you all Saturday night for UFC 276 live on pay-per-view. Prelims on ABC. That's exciting as well. Thanks to everybody for listening, watching, subscribing. We will talk to you next Sunday night to recap it all. Until then, yo later.